We'll be doing the book raffle, y'all. So if you haven't won yet, just hang tight, stay for the whole session, and then I'll come back on and announce the winner, and hopefully you'll be it. And with that, I'm so happy and honored to turn this over to my colleague, my friend, my sister in this movement, Kelsey Barowich. Kels.
Hey y'all, my name is Kelsey. I use they, them pronouns. I am here today so excited to moderate this panel. I am wearing a black and white shirt with an abstract pattern on it, and over it is a blazer that is plaid with like yellowy orange and purples and greens and darker reds. And my background is just pure purple with the We Give Summit logo in the back, which is white lettering and a blue circle. I selfishly was so excited to pull this group together because they're all folks that I admire. I encourage all of you participants to be really active in the chat. I'll be looking at it as questions come up. And as you can see, this session is named after that beautiful Etta James song. I just want to pull out a quote before we get started that I think will really carry us through this session, which is, "Have the faith that I have in you, and love will see us through, but only if you trust in me." So today, let's come together. Let's learn about trust in action, trust-based philanthropy in action. And with that, I'm going to invite my panelists to come on screen. First, I'd love to call up Sadaf to introduce herself. Sadaf, come on.
Hi, Kelsey. Thank you so much for the introduction, and saying thank you so much to our hosts. And thank you to all of you who have had 3 days of conferencing, and it's the end of the day and you're still here. So thank you for making the time. My name is Sadaf Rasul Cameron. I'm an Afghan American who's based in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I have blue eyes and black hair. I'm wearing a kind of off-white collarless button-down shirt and red lipstick, because that's what you have to do on a Thursday for a conference. And I'm wearing very large green turquoise Afghan earrings, and I have this very crazy Afghan ring, which is also kind of like a weapon. I'm the executive director of Kindle Project, which was founded in 2008, nearly 15 years ago. I can't believe it's been that long. And we've been practicing participatory grant making and trust-based philanthropy from the beginning. We function as an intermediary. Essentially, we build bridges between high net worth donors and foundations and communities. We partner with donors and foundations who are looking to build funds rooted in sharing power, which can look like embracing trust-based philanthropy approaches or principles, or really like getting into participatory grant-making practices. I would say funders and foundations approach and work with an intermediary such as Kindle for a variety of reasons. It can look like they have a capacity issue within their foundation, or they're looking for expertise. Sometimes they have challenges within their own funding mechanism, and that's a way in which we can support. Our funds support a wide range of issues because it's based in participatory grant making. We're really looking at what are the needs of the community. So we don't have a particular area of focus. It's all very interwoven. Currently, we have 12 participatory grant making funds. I know I saw something in the chat about the Indigenous Women's Flow Fund. That is one of our biggest participatory grant making funds, which I'm happy to speak about later in this chat. And that is a 7-year project of 7-year participatory grant making program that works with 5 Indigenous women that has a pool of donors donating into one pooled fund that these women are giving away from their wisdom and their experience. And essentially we're working in a variety of models and approaches for participatory grant making and trust-based philanthropy, and it can look a variety of ways. So we do flow funding circles, we have giving circles, we do participatory evaluation, we invite community in to be panelists to look at applications. There's many different ways in which we build trust within our ecosystem, and it's not really a one-size-fits-all outfit. And that's it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sadaf. And with that, I am going to pass it to Westlake.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Kelsey. My name's Westlake. My pronouns are she and they. I am a white, butchy looking elder queer with brown eyes and silver hair. I like to say silver, not gray. Wearing a dark blue button up and a blue shawl collar cardigan. Behind me is a sunny room with a pink couch. It is velvet. And out of the window, there are some green trees as I'm in upstate New York. And I'm here to talk about the giving circle that I co-founded called Vital Little Plans. I'm also the co-founder of a small communications collective called Flannel and Blade that works exclusively with nonprofits and foundations. So there was a lot going on at the sort of midpoint of 2019 and through 2020, and a group of friends and me got together and created this giving circle to try to do something useful. We're an artist collective and a giving circle that supports equitable, creative, and vital plans that are arts-driven and also community-led. So what we do is we pool our money together as a percentage of our income. That's an individually meaningful amount to us. We've moved $30,000 since the start of our circle with 3 major gifts over 3 years. And the way that we do the process is that we do all the research. So the first an organization knows about us is we're ringing them up to ask them where to send them a check for 10K. We also provide pro bono technical assistance. We've built websites, helped people with messaging, with other kinds of things about their infrastructure. And 3 gifts so far have been to Mama's Day bailout campaign with the People's Paper Co-op in Philadelphia, who I highly recommend you check out. They are run by formerly incarcerated women who do amazing work. Our most recent gift was La Colmena in Puerto Rico, which practices community-based agroecology and beekeeping, and are trying to provide greater food sovereignty in the Puerto Rican archipelago. And then in 2021, we funded Egun E. Felicia in Alabama, which is an intentional eco-village community of Indigenous Muskogee persons who, after 180 years of having been forcibly removed from their homelands in what's commonly known as Alabama, have returned and bought their own home back and came back for the purpose of practicing linguistic, cultural, and ecological sustainability.
Oh, amazing, amazing. And with that, I'm going to invite up our next panelist, Danielle. Oh, Danielle, you're still on mute.
Sorry.
No worries.
Before we get too far, my name is Danielle. Good evening, everyone. My pronouns are she and it, and I have curly natural hair, caramel skin, and I'm wearing a pink feminine blazer. I am the director of philanthropy for River Network. And at River Network, we envision a powerful and an inclusive movement that ensures abundant, clean water for all people to thrive. I have over 8 years experience in philanthropy. And one of my passions is ensuring that under-resourced communities have the resources that they need to thrive. Particularly for this topic, we also have at River Network, a flow funding giving circle that uses the trust-based philanthropy model. And I'm excited to talk more about that with you all today.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And with that, I'm going to invite our last panelist up to introduce themselves, Amara.
Good afternoon. My name is Amara. I am from the Sex Worker Giving Circle at Third Wave Fund. I was a fellow in 2021 and a senior fellow in 2022. I am a mixed race, light complected person with brown curly hair. I am wearing a magenta and multicolored boubou, and I am coming to you all from my home. Yeah, a little bit about me. I am an organizer. I am an activist on my local community, and I've served with the Giving Circle, as I already mentioned, and I'm also currently a member of this wonderful program called creating an effective and inclusive organizations, seeding conscious co-creation, 2022 and 2023 cohort. Just so folks know a little bit about what the Sex Worker Giving Circle is. The Giving Circle is a cross-class, multiracial, intergenerational giving circle housed in Third Wave Fund. It is made up of a group of fellows of current and past experience of either being involved in the sex work or in the sex trades. And the fellows make all the high-level funding decisions and grant-making recommendations, leading and directing many of the fundraising activities of the program itself. So I'm very thrilled to be here with you all and to share with you all about what that experience is like. And yeah, that is my introduction.
Thank you so much, Amara. And with that, I'm going to invite all the panelists up to be pinned right now so you can see all of them and we can react and talk in real time. I like to think of this as all of us sitting down at a table and having a fishbowl conversation. So again, audience, I highly encourage you to have the chat open and write down your thoughts and questions as they come up. I literally have it right here to look. But with that, let's jump right in. For those of you who are not familiar with trust-based philanthropy, I highly recommend that you go check out the Trust-Based Philanthropy Project website. They really have been the seeders of this work in addition to many years leading up to it. We're not going to necessarily get into all of the pieces, but we're really going to talk about what trust-based philanthropy looks like in real time, in practice, with all of these amazing practitioners coming out of the field. So with that, let's start with the first question. What does authentic trust mean to you and your giving? Why is it important? And how do you build trust, or how do you build relationships rooted in humanity and trust? Anybody want to kick that off?
I can go.
Awesome.
So when I was preparing for this, I was thinking about it, and it's kind of like authentic trust is like radical listening, right? Because it's deep. It's like the only way to operate for a fulfilling life in general. And in giving, I think it's really crucial. The way that we kind of think about it in terms of Vital Little Plans is thinking about power, right? It's about who's got power, who's trying to hang on to power, who doesn't have access to it. And why do I, as a funder, feel the need to kind of request onerous application processes or onerous reporting processes? I would feel very arrogant to think that I would know better than a community who has been in the work, doing the work for years. So we want to stay in our lane and really just trust the people that are already doing the work and believe that the person or the organization that we're actually giving gifts to is acting with the integrity that they have brought to this work, likely for decades already, and is ongoingly committed to achieving their goals.
I love that. And we just had a session right before this about radical listening. So you're totally picking up on the vibe. Danielle, I saw that you muted.
Oh, yes. I really love that answer. What I would add to that is that when I think about trust-based philanthropy, I also think about addressing power dynamics, like similar to what Wesley just said, like making sure that we are, as an organization, are being open to feedback and critique. And that's something that we don't always have the opportunity to do with certain other models, And so truly being able to build that connection with our grantees and the recipients, making sure that they know best. Yeah, and they're empowered to spend the revenue as they see fit, and knowing that change doesn't always look like, you can't really put it in black and white, or you can't just have it in a structured type of look. And so I just really think that transferring that power and looking into having more empathy with each other with that relationship, and also transparency will affect bigger and better change, I think, with that.
I love that. Sadaf, go ahead.
I can add on to my wonderful colleagues. Westlake, thanks you so much for articulating that, because I think that's like pretty much the core of what we're all trying to do. In my experience, trust looks really different across various cultures. And so I think it's also, we have to be really attuned and aware to not project our understanding of what trust means onto any community. Like, I think the West's idea of what trust is, at least in my community, in the Afghan community, is there's a very different understanding. And so what that means for me in my work as a practitioner, it has meant that I have to approach the work and come to a community with genuine curiosity and an openness, which requires deep listening. But I think I think it's important to make a bit of a distinction around trust is like this one big monolithic thing that means the same thing to everybody, because it actually doesn't. And I think the more that you get into the work, the more that you will be surprised at that things that you think are best practices can also land in a way that might not culturally feel like a trusting gesture. So yeah, I just wanted to add that piece of it.
Love that. And Amara, I'm wondering if you can share a little bit more about your experience of how Third Wave Fund created a trusting environment among fellows and all that piece to kind of round out that answer.
Yeah, I love Sadaf's answer because it spoke to something that's very resonant with the giving circle, is understanding that trust looks different in many different cultures, and that includes in sex worker organizing space, sex worker movement space, and the landscape of sex worker organizing. You're gonna find that many folks involved in that work have very different needs. And as was just said, what might be a best practice in one context might not be in another. And so moving at the speed of trust, empowering people and bringing the ground up to them, and understanding like you have all of the knowledge and the wisdom that you need to like lead. Let's create the space and create the foundation for all of that wisdom to be shared and informing the space is where I think that gets grounded, and it's rooted in everything. There's a deep commitment in the Giving Circle from the program officers in the program to grow the organizers and activists that they work with, from grantees to fellows. It means building authentic relationship with sex worker leadership that you sincerely and genuinely believe in. And they have an unwavering commitment to developing the most directly impacted. So that means capacity building. That means trauma-informed practices in a very wraparound sense, from the application itself to if there is conflict happening or something unexpected, troubles coming up that many sex worker organizers are familiar with, like banking issues or issues with getting funds to people that really need them, or trouble with law enforcement. All these sorts of things get wrapped into it. So I'm going to wrap that up there for now, but I feel like this conversation is already beginning to weave into a lot of beautiful things.
Yeah. Listening to all of you, one of the pieces of imagery that came up for me was, the act of building out a garden, right? First, you have this tiny little seed and you're placing it in the ground, and then you're watering it. If there's a heat wave in your community, maybe you're checking it twice to give it water in the morning and the night instead of just in the evening. That tending, right? That responsibility of constantly coming back and checking in, even if the garden maybe isn't saying anything specifically. And so thank you all for answering that. I'm really moved. One of the questions that I'm seeing in the chat specifically is how do you build these relationships with those that you are granting that money to, gifting that money to? And I think, to expand upon the question that Jamie brought up into the chat, I think to Donnell's point about power, right? That like money as a resource, as a legacy, there's a lot of power in money. And that transfer from either a giving circle, a collective giving group, an intermediary, to an organization, individual, or nonprofit, it can bring up a lot of feelings, right? A lot of baggage. And we know that building trust, it's so much more than just giving and walking away. It's also emotional intelligence, really, like Westlake said, deep listening, like Donnell said, being aware of power dynamics. So what are the hard and tangible ways that as you're moving money to these organizations, you're building that awareness and trust? What does that look like in real time? Whoever wants to pop in there can.
I can go if you like. I think it's about transparency and accountability and kind of showing up and not gatekeeping anything, including kind of anything that could be open sourced in terms of technical assistance. I think also for us with the Giving Circle, because people don't know until we've done all the research and then they receive, we reach out to try to get the money to them. But there can be some co-creation around other sort of technical assistance or other help that they might want or need. But co-creation takes time and money and relationship building, and always takes longer than you think. I always think of that little saying that is like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And it's about putting the time in and being patient and persistent. And being a lesbian really helps me because there's a lot of processing that goes on within Vital Little Plans, because we don't bullshit each other and we have hard conversations. And are able to kind of, call each other to account about our own individual biases, so that when we're out there in speaking with the, folks in the communities that we're trying to work with, that feels it has more integrity and it is more real.
I love that call out that you just shared, Westlake, in relation to how your Giving Circle members, that's where it starts, right? That's where the trust starts. That's where the relationship starts, that practicing of hard conversations, right? Because we know often as we are building trust, what that's going to look like at some points is unearthing and unrooting and highlighting wounds that might be incredibly painful. And so for us to be able to hold that, we really need to sit together in that and work together to do that healing. Before I transfer to another question, Donnell, Sadaf, Amara, anything to add?
I would just add, being able to, it has to do with the transparency, but just going a little bit deeper than that and being willing to share failures. I find that really helps bring the relationship closer and strengthen the relationship, because we know that everything doesn't work, and sometimes, always doing the grant reports or just, communicating, success. But part of getting to success is having to experience failure. So I think that, with some of my colleagues have said, with the transparency, but also making sure that when we are being transparent, that we are not, we're being unapologetic about the things that we're doing. And if they don't work, then I think we're that much closer to really fulfilling the mission and affecting change.
I think one of us want to speak.
Should I go? I think the one thing that I would add is to take ourselves out of the complicated role of being philanthropists or being in this very particular niche field, and just actually coming back to being a human and what it means to be a human and show up authentically in a relationship, not as an asshole, but as a open human experiencing life in this present moment. I think there's a way in which philanthropy and money and power and the way that we speak to it and our proximity to it can strip us of our humanity. And actually building trusting relationships, we do that every day. We do that with our children. We do that with our family members. We do that with our mailman. We forget that actually it's something that we practice all of the time. And so I don't think that there's some sort of a manual that comes in, a manual that you can be handed over if this is how you build a trusting relationship. But I think it's innate in what we do as people, and to not forget that we do this all the time. We build trusting relationships with animals. How do we build trusting relationships with animals? So I just wanted to take it out of the philanthropy wonk for a second and the jargon and just remind us all that we're, we have a shared species thing happening too.
Thank you, Sadaf. I just wanted to name one more thing that was bubbling up for me. It was that the process from like the perspective of sex worker organizers, applying for grants is scary and vulnerable. And there aren't that many opportunities for sex worker organizers and activists to develop themselves as leaders. So the process should feel like an iterative milestone of accomplishment for everyone possible, even if someone doesn't get the grant. The people that are applying should feel like we have their back and we're rooting for them in their growth at any stage. And I think that's a part of the culture that I think makes the Giving Circle incredibly special. And that when I've done the cycles, there's this understanding that these are incredible leaders, organizers, community holders, wonderful beings doing incredible and powerful work that in philanthropy, there's only so much funding to go around for this specific kind of work for a lot of different systemic reasons. So remembering like we're all in this together and we're rooting for each other ends up being like another piece of that culture, especially in a field, in a sector where that competitiveness, that capitalist competitiveness can really stifle that relationship building across movement.
Yes. Oh man. There's so much I want to pull and tease here. Particularly Sadaf's comment about the fact that trust is something that we practice every day. And that's, in part where my first question was rooted in, because I think one of the things that I do hear so often about trust-based philanthropy is that, folks really get in their head. They want that like 6,000 step model or the manual. And that's not what relationships are, right? I can think of when I first met some of my colleagues, getting to know them, getting to show like, hey, this is who I am, this is what I'm about. And again, similar to what Amara said about the constant iterative process of celebration, it is those small moments where, I've noticed for me in my trust building relationships where you really get to gas up someone who you've just met, where you're like, yes, I think that is really awesome. Thank you for trusting me with that, right? In my time working with college students, one of the things that I often found myself saying was, thank you for trusting me with that. Right? Because it can be just as difficult to open that vulnerable space and take a chance on trusting someone as it is to be the person who you are trying to build trust with at the same time and being a trust building person. So shifting gears a little bit, one of the misconceptions that we really often see about trust-based philanthropy is that it's giving blindly to any organization. When in reality, when trust-based philanthropy is practiced well, it actually requires a lot of work, right? Of getting to know the organizations, getting to know the community, really, again, doing that seeding work of building trust with folks and tending to that garden. And so I'm wondering if you all can share, what has that quote unquote like work looked like for all of you? And what are some of the ways that, you would encourage folks to bring in, whether it's specific ways you're engaging with that community building or, doing that power analysis, reflecting on that? What does the work look like? How about we can start with Sadaf, just to change it up a bit.
Hey, I started first. No, just kidding. It's okay. God, what does the work look like? I mean, it's really multifaceted, right? It's like trust it's not a linear path. It's not like there's an A to Z path and this is how you build trust. Every culture is different and every individual is different. Every context, every situation is very unique. So for us, what the work has really looked like is there's something about timing. Like you really have to be able to be willing to put in the time. Like that's just like first and foremost, right off the top. Some things move really quickly. And you'd be surprised the pieces of the work that actually move quickly. And some things have to be slowed way down. I think there's also this kind of misconception that trust is just a one-way street. Like it's like, oh, the people that hold power up here, they bring trust down here, and then trust is just a one-way street. But it undulates, right? It doesn't have this linear path. And so when you engage in building relationships, it means that there's going to be energy passed between people, right? So just as much as trust has to be built down, it also has to be built up. And yes, there are power dynamics that are innate when you are money and you are a decision maker, but they're also, I mean, I think from my perspective, it's not really about moving the money. This work isn't actually about the money. It's not about how big the dollars are. It's actually about healing and reparations and how we can shift the way that we are socially engaged in power and money. And in order to do that, it means that you have to take the time to be able to honor each one of those trusting paths, if that makes sense. So from our perspective, it's not like the donor needs to stay out of the room. The donor can't ask for anything. You as funder can't ask for anything. Like you hand over the money and that's it. That's all. You kind of wipe yourself clean. You've done your work. Trust-based philanthropy can also become a checklist. I've seen this happening more and more across philanthropy. People are like, oh, well, I give general support, so I do trust-based philanthropy. Boom, I checked a box, like it's done. I've done the thing that I'm supposed to do. Now I'm a practitioner. And I think we have to be really aware of that. We have to be very careful of that, because building trust, building relationships is active and it's changing and it's evolving all of the time. So I think if we think about this work, if we think about our work, not about moving the money. Yes, money can help. Yes, money is, it's the thing that we're doing, but it's the thing that is catalyzing the relationship building. And in that way, it's not a one-way street. So I know that's like kind of a vague answer. I can go into all the practicalities of the way in which we like build trust. And do we have one application or no applications or reporting requirements? And again, like, we have worked with grantees that want to write reports. They want to be able to reflect. They don't want to have a phone call. They don't want to just take the money and run, because they want to build an authentic relationship. They want to be able to carve out the time. And so I think, again, we have to be really careful about how we prescribe what trust means, because it looks different for everybody. So that's my little soapbox, and I can step off of it, but I'm also happy to answer like just brass tacks nails of like, how do we do the work? So.
But I love that point, Sadaf, like specifically, right? Trust is not a one-size-fits-all model. And part of that trust building is working directly with folks and with the folks who you're, giving money to about like, okay, you want to write a report, like, let's do it. Or, is a phone call easier for you to share more? Is it just that, this is a time of crisis and what we're going to do is funnel money to you because you're on the front lines. You should have had this money to begin with. And we know that y'all have big things going on. So we're going to check in, see if you need support, see if you have space to share back with us. But they might not, right? And again, that moving away from a one-size-fits-all model, I think, is incredibly important. And I'm wondering, does anybody else want to jump in with that before I hop to our next question?
I would add also that moving towards or implementing a trust-based model also requires a change of mindset, and it's a practice, so you have to kind of be able to and willing to be able to embrace the uncertainty, which is something that we all want to forecast and be able to say, okay, when we put in these inputs, we're going to get these outputs, like being able to embrace the uncertainty of it all and prioritize relationships over transactions, which makes it more of it's more about the relationship and knowing like, okay, we might not have it all figured out, but we're working towards a common goal, or just trying to the output. So I think that is something else that we have to think about. It's just the mindset that goes into it. And, you know, the key lesson is that the importance of over time, I think that also establishes trust, you know, because you are able to hold them accountable, and they hold you accountable, and just know that you are dependable. And yeah, that's just something that came to mind. It's just, I know that we're talking about the funds and giving it, but it's also a mindset. If you don't have the right mindset when we're giving, then that changes the energy of of what happens. And I think that's important. We don't really talk about that a lot. It's like, what type of mindset, what energy are we giving the funds for? Because sometimes people don't even see the grantee, or, you know, who they're getting the money from. And I think that with the trust-based philanthropy model, you can't get away with not having that relationship and learning more about what's going on, because it doesn't look a certain way. It's kind of different for each person. And so I love that, to be able to embrace that mindset as well. Like, I'm giving this with good energy and trusting that you know how to best use the funds.
Yes. Yeah. And that totally, you know, again, it like speaks to the quote that I said at the earlier piece, right? Like, have the faith in me that I have in you, right? And when you start to build that way, like, that's where, you know, I feel like all of us know that moment when you're in a meeting where something tense happens and then the ice just breaks and somebody like has a smile and you're just like, oh, right, that's what this is all about, right? Speaking to what Sadaf said earlier too, of the like, oh, we're all people and we're all kind of fumbling through this and trying our best. I want to keep an eye on time, so I am going to shift gears a little bit. So we know at We Give Summit, you know, we're here to really learn how to be in community together and to disrupt philanthropy. We know historically that traditional philanthropy has created systems and structures that push out those on the front lines of oppressive systems, right? Often those are the folks who are closest to the problems. They're doing the most impactful work, the most creative solutions. And whether that's through, you know, a long application process or tedious reporting mechanisms, things that remove people's humanity, that take the joy out of building community or remove the possibility of building community at all. What I've found is that trust-based philanthropy, and all of you keep bringing this up, you know, it pushes us, one, to embrace our humanity and community, but two, it also pushes us to take risks, because if there isn't risk, you can't have trust, right? If everything is safe and you know exactly what's going to happen, that maybe isn't actually trust. It's just, you know what is coming next. And so to that, I would love for you all to share a little bit more about your experiences of, you know, how you've navigated the intersections of social justice, risk, and trust-based philanthropy. Amara, do you want to hop in first? I know you didn't get to hop in for the last question.
Sure, because this is like a jam. I believe it's less than 1% of all philanthropy funds sex worker-led projects, or projects specifically addressing the needs of sex workers and people engaged in the sex trades. This is due in a large part due to there's a lot of how would I put it? A lot of like support behind closed doors, but like the willingness to be out there and say, we wholeheartedly embrace and support and choose to fund sex worker led projects and work in like sex worker liberation and empowerment. For some folks in this sector is very scary. This is something that we learned as fellows in the fellowship. This is something that our program officers, as part of this curriculum, in building this systemic, like this understanding of a systemic oppression, is also understanding the way philanthropy has failed our movement and has done it harm. Historically, how nonprofit has historically divested and diverted energy from radical liberatory work for BIPOC communities, for communities of color, working class and poor communities of color, doing radical things for their people. And that includes harm reduction and sex worker liberation and empowerment. So Third Wave and the Giving Circle in particular is their whole modus operandi is about using the resources, the privilege, and the power to hold well all that needs to be held well in our movement work. We got a lot of stuff going on. We have people in jails. We have people like we have FOSTA SESTA constantly making this, like there are constantly every day more laws that make organizing, just sex worker organizing in general, harder and harder, because you have to be so conscious on the lookout about law enforcement or some other entity disrupting that coming together. Our communities can constantly find themselves in crisis. And so Third Wave, this project of the Giving Circle has been about, and it's going to continue as it continues to grow and expand, is about being able to hold well all of that. All right, let me really meet you where you're at. If this is the fire that you're in, I'm going to be in the fire there with you, because that's the reality of what you're living, and we're not going to be scared of it. I think there's something so moving and powerful about having been part of these 2 cycles that I was in, of being shown, like modeled, and like feeling that is that commitment of like, we're gonna go there. All right, shit got messy. We're gonna roll up our sleeves and help you.
Thank you so much. That was a phenomenal answer. And before I switch over to a few questions that I've seen pop up in the chat, Westlake, I know you specifically wanted to ask me about risk, but also Sadaf, I see your mic unmuting. So I want to make sure that Sadaf and Westlake and Donnell, that you have a chance to kind of give your thoughts on that intersection before we switch over.
Excuse me, I just want to say it's Danielle. Just want to make sure I tell you that.
I'm so sorry, Danielle.
I cede time to Sadaf.
And I won't take that much time. I just think that philanthropy needs like a new language. Like we need new lexicon, like risk. We don't even think about risk. Risk is like learning, it's opportunity, it's adventure, it's opportunity. Risk is opportunity. And so for us to like take that language out, like what does that actually, like really, what is the risk? Like what? So I just wanted to put that out there, that I think words really matter. And we talk about risk and finance all the time. And I just think there's like, so boring, like we can find something better. We're really creative people.
I love that. I love that. Okay, I want to shift over a little bit to questions that I'm seeing in the chat. So one thing that came up specifically was kind of 2 pieces of engaging with the trust-based philanthropy project, or excuse me, trust-based philanthropy overall. One person brought up the amount of time that can go into building these relationships, both as like someone participating in a collective giving space or as an intermediary, but also, you know, what we're asking of the folks that we're giving to. And so I would love to hear how y'all navigate, you know, the time that goes into it, particularly knowing that time poorness is absolutely a thing that many folks experience. And a second question along a similar stream was specifically if y'all have ever met organizations that aren't as interested in doing the trust-based work, what that has looked like for you all. So it's 2 different challenges, but would love to hear from y'all as to how you've built those relationships and how you've navigated challenges like that.
I can just say quickly, with time, compensate people. Just compensate people if you can, just compensate people for their time, because trust-based philanthropy can be slow and we can process and we can navel gaze till the end of time, but other folks cannot do that. And so just compensate, make sure that you pay people for their time and pay people well.
I'd love to add that sort of thinking about that, you know, making sure that you're respecting people's time. Like when we've gone out, we've visited, we try to visit the people that we funded. So we do our retreat in the place that we have funded in. So we go there and we ask if people would like to meet us. It's completely up to them whether they would like to or not. And then we go there and we try and be a value add, and we say, what can we help you with? Let's build some shelves. Like, can we do, you know, we don't want to go there, you know, and be kind of like treated, you know, oh, because you gave us $10,000 that we owe you something. It's nothing like that. It's kind of like, let's literally, you'd volunteer, go and pick up some litter, cook a meal together or something like that. And we've ended up becoming friends with nearly all these folks. So it's, again, that relationship building, giving up your time to do the research and do the travel and arrive where they are. And then only when they, you know, that seems like it's something that they would like to have.
Any other key pieces before we transition?
I would say also just marketing, helping them raise awareness for some of the things they do by providing additional technical support, as well as marketing materials so that they can help spread the word. I think that that's important. And also visiting, like just the human interaction, like seeing them in person, sharing space with them, letting them know that you're there and that you believe in what they are doing. But I find that a lot of times just spreading awareness is what can really make a difference, and also giving them room to fail. I know I mentioned failure before, but I do think that any part of any type of trusting relationship is being able to provide space to not be perfect, because no one's perfect. And if you feel like you have to be, then you kind of shy away. You can't show up as your authentic self.
Amara, any last key pieces of advice or anything like that that you would give our audience?
Are you gonna transition to another question?
I think I'm gonna just have you hit your piece of advice, and then I'm getting the we're at time mark, so I'm gonna start closing out the session.
Got you. Then I would simply say, yeah, giving your grantees, our fellows, giving people room to fail actually allows them to, like, having the room to make mistakes allows them the space to grow. Like I wrote down before this, a way to build trust is, it helps to build trust to know that you won't be abandoned if you fail or if you find yourself fumbling. And I think for a lot of vulnerable communities, it's really scary. Once you get the grant, there can sometimes be the expectation of, now I can't fail. Because if something goes wrong, if the vision takes me to another direction, or we find that we need to do something else and pivot, then we lose all our support and we're abandoned. But that's the time to lean in. That's the time to really hold it down and say, we're not going to abandon you. We're going to help you through this. We're going to be there with you while you're figuring this out, because that allows for sustainable growth for leadership, and that allows for sustainable organizing and movement work to continue to generate and reiterate and become what it wants to be. So that's my last bit of advice.
Thank you. And thank you all to our panelists. I feel the urge to say I hate to cut it short, even though I know we're at time. We even got a few extra minutes in. Thank you to all four of you. There was such incredible wisdom and just knowledge on this panel. I personally am geeking out while trying to remain calm as a moderator. And I know that our audience is as well. There was so much seeds and wisdom and power dropped. So thank you so much for joining us here today. I'm going to invite my colleague Taisha to come back on to close this out and to share the winner of our raffle. Truly, this has been such a phenomenal session. I feel honored to have moderated it, and I so appreciate all of you. Taisha, take it away.
Kelsey, you did so good. Shout out to this panel. We needed this. We needed this space. So thank you all for the wonderful speakers. Shout out Danielle, Sadaf, Westlake, and Amara for reminding us, truly reminding us on the priority, y'all, of trust-based philanthropy. Some gems that I have, it's not a theory. It's not a linear path. It's not one size fits all. It's not about the money, right? But it is a two-way street, and it's rooted in healing and reparations, and we all should and can and should embrace it as a risk-taking liberation, harm reduction work. So the poll is up. Appreciate y'all. Y'all are on it. Thank you so much for completing the 2-question survey. And drum roll, please. Let me find our winner. Chicken dinner is Maggie Krause. Maggie, pick your book. Okay, pick your book and our team will follow up with you. We promise to follow up with you on next steps. What we have coming up. So again, thank y'all for joining this session. The next session that's coming up is Ripple Effect Mapping, Amplifying Our Collective Impact and Story. That is hosted by leaders at CoThink. Y'all definitely don't want to miss that one. I'm super excited about that session. Also, I will be remiss if I didn't mention 2 other little shameless plugs. One, giving circles are all in this space right now. If you are a member and or leader of a giving circle, please complete the survey that is out, the landscape research survey. We want you to be counted. We need to be counted, y'all. We need more diverse voices. So head on over to collective.giving, literally, and complete the survey, please. Even y'all on the panel, if you have not completed the survey, ladies, please complete it. And then the last thing, if you are interested in starting a giving circle, Kelsey and I host and facilitate monthly Lunchpad for You, a free 90-minute training. We want you to come. Head on over to philanthropytogether.org. You can sign up for our next session. I think our next one is next week, May 10th. We have one in June as well. Or if you're not interested in starting a giving circle, but you want to join one or join any of the ones that you heard from today, we have a global giving circle directory also on our website. Everything is on our website. Y'all go there and we'll see you at the next session. God bless y'all. See ya.